Welcome to the Cinderella podcast, where we watch and review every Cinderella adaptation we can get our hands on, discussing the same story over and over until we slowly go insane. I'm Liv.
And I'm Talon, and today we watched A Cinderella Story Once Upon a Song, which was made in 2011. And I'm going to go ahead and call this the third time's the charm Cinderella because it was fine.
It was so much fun. I had a great time watching this. I laughed out loud. I was bopping to some of the songs. This was a good movie. I was not prepared for a good movie.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go so far as to call it a good movie, but it was completely adequate.
I liked it.
It was totally fine.
Totally fun. Well, not totally fine, but it was largely fine. I really liked it.
So we start with a musical number. There's a big lit up go in the back, like the word go with little old timey flashbulbs on it. So we have our protagonist, Katie, which we don't know this yet, but she's a pretty girl with long dark hair and she's singing the song and she's wearing a very like early 2000s vest, even though this was made in 2011. And I feel like by that point, vests were out. We weren't doing vests anymore.
Yeah, my internal commentary on the outfits were, I really love these outfits. I really love this fashion. This is good. I like this. Come back.
She's also wearing really long leather gloves. And so she's doing this dance number. There's a lot of other backup dancers, and we can see the cameras in the shots. So we know that she's actually recording this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this big number. If I'm not a star, you're blind. I'm going to run this town. Stuff like that.
There's also a great line, got glitter in my hair, and my note was, oh, 2011, I miss you. Hair glitter. Ah, what a decade. Okay.
And then a small child jumps in front of her with an electric guitar and just starts like wailing on it like very badly and yells spaghetti waffles. And then she wakes up and there's a small child in front of her. We're going to find out that this is Victor, her stepbrother. And he's just making terrible noises on a guitar, telling her that he's hungry and that he's going to pass out if he doesn't eat. And also that a cat pooped in the den and that he used her blanket to clean it up. And that's our introduction to her living situation, which I feel like is terrible when a small child wakes you up with bad news.
Indeed. Although you missed the most critical part of that sequence. Katie, our Cinderella, responds to that with, we don't have a cat. And Victor goes very ominously, I know. And then flees the scene. So the cat poop, we don't have a cat, is a running joke, which, of all the running jokes we've seen, I'm fine with this one. This is fine. Not really funny, but okay.
It worked for me because everyone was genuinely very confused. And just like, the confusion makes me laugh.
Yeah, the confusion. I also like that it just remained an unknown. There is no payoff. At no point do we ever find out what's pooping where. It's just it's left unknown, and I like it.
Oh no, I don't think it's left unknown. I think it's Victor just pooping places. Because at one point he declares at the end, I'm gonna poop in her bed. And I think that was the payoff.
I have lots of questions about Victor now.
Yeah, Victor is like not doing great.
Is he, or is he doing phenomenally?
No, like that is not an okay child. That child has way too much leeway and is living in like,
he's not being raised well, but we'll get to it. So Katie puts her jacket on and races, I have to the library from the Page Master, just this massive house with 2-story pillars and a circular patio out front. We find out eventually that she's living in essentially a shed in the backyard.
I thought that was weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
I just mean, in terms of like the whole Cinderella premise, I didn't mind at first that she was living in a shack in the backyard, but when she was having meals inside the house, like at the table with the family, then I was like, what's the point of making her live in a shack?
Yeah, that was weird, especially since they live in a bona fide mansion. That house has 30 rooms. And as we know, an attic of some kind, because Victor has a Home Alone booby-trapped evil villain lair.
Yeah.
We'll get
Oh,
to it.
yeah.
We'll get to it. So Katie interrupts the stepmother, who is standing for her portrait wrapped in sort of a red sari. Uh, it's weird, is what it is. Stepmother's name is Gail. She is very white, very blonde, and very much wants to be taller than she is.
She's pretty tall to begin with. When she says she wants to be taller than she is, she wants to be like 6'4", is I think what she says.
Yeah, which was weird. Although, at least she was consistent and she wanted the same thing throughout the entire movie, which I liked. She also says at this time, I am feeling spiritually blocked. Draw me a sesame seed oil bath. And then we just leave as though that didn't happen.
She also throws a bunch of requests at Katie or Cinderella, including make the water quieter. And they have like some back and forth banter in which we establish that they're mean to each other.
We do. The stepmother is very mean, but I'm going to go with not inhumanly mean the way that the stepmother in the Selena Gomez Cinderella was mean.
Yeah, I believe that this person exists.
Yeah, this is a real person. This is not this is a real, really terrible person, but a person who could theoretically exist. The other one was terrible.
We're briefly introduced to Bev, the stepsister. She is also very blonde and a little mean, and that's basically it.
She has long blonde hair. She's very self-absorbed. And then we get the morning ritual. Katie is in the kitchen with cereal bowls and milk, and she is very frantically trying to make a bunch of things. She is also juicing berries or something in a blender with the lid off. So, one, what? And Victor runs in with a handful of worms. This is evidently something that happens because she notices it right away and basically body tackles him, and the handful of worms do not go into the cereal bowl. They go into the blender of red berries and get blended up. And just at that moment, the stepmother walks in and just takes it and just chugs from the bottle, the blender container thing, and goes, fishy. I don't have this exact line. Do you have it?
She comments on the fishy and earthy taste with like an aftertaste of gravel.
And then and then she goes, did you let Victor put worms in this again? And Katie goes, yes. I mean, no. I mean, it just happened. And the stepmother goes, nothing can kill me. It doesn't matter what you try. And then leaves.
It's incredible. She says it's so deadpan, like she's convinced that there's nothing that can hurt her. And I like believed it in that moment. And I was like, wow, okay.
Also,
you rolled for intimidation and like you did it. You got it.
You did it. You passed it. You beat the AC. That means that she's drunk worms a whole bunch of times because she's not surprised by this and immediately recognizes the flavor of worms. It also means that she thinks that Katie is routinely trying to poison her food.
Interesting points. How many times would you need to accidentally eat worms somehow for it to stop being a thing that you care about? Like, how many times do you think that had to have happened to her?
Oh, to her? Okay. I'll probably say like 4 or 5. I feel like by 5 you just be like, ugh, I don't even, whatever. For me, the number is infinity. I have a terrible phobia of worms, and I would literally die. I would explode on an atomic level. So for me, infinity. This woman, this powerhouse, 5. What do you think?
I was thinking it's got to be like double digits.
Oh, okay.
Because the horror content is pretty high.
I mean, you're not wrong. It is pretty high.
So in the next scene, Katie's driving them to the school, and it turns out that Gail, the stepmother, is the dean of this very fancy, I think, Wellesley Academy or something like that.
Wellesley.
Wellesley. I tried to make it more fancy by giving it more syllables.
Nice try.
And Gail is with somebody on the phone, and she's talking about how she's the dean. She knows what the students need. They don't need a library. They need her to have her office remodeled because she wants it ready. She's going to meet with this Guy Morgan. He's a music producer, and it's happening today. So the office isn't ready, but it's fine. It's just a regular office. She's just nervous, and that's what we're supposed to get from it.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous office. It's fine.
So we have Guy Morgan, the music producer. He's just an older British man. And there's a young guy with him who's very blonde and floppy haired, and that's Luke, his son. And he is now, I guess, attending the school, but it feels like it's the end of the year, and it also feels like he's a senior, maybe.
Yeah, the timeline of where this is in the school year is unclear. So the stepmother gives Luke his like list of classes, and Luke says that he wants to add a music class, and we find out through things and stuff that his dad wants him to be a businessman and does not want him to be a musician, and he feels bad about that.
Katie is also there. She gets called in, and she's told that Luke is a new student at the school, and she's like, oh, this is like exciting. And then she's told to text Bev and get her to come give him a tour, and she immediately deflates. Luke is kind of like doing flirty eyes at her, which I thought was a nice touch.
We also find out because Guy Morgan is sort of making fun of Luke's last album. He says it was called something like Fruit Loops or something, and Luke goes, it's called Danger Fruit. And Katie freaks out because she's heard it and she loved it, and Luke is immediately charmed by this because not many people have heard of it, and she's like, no, it's an underground sensation, I love it. And Guy doesn't care because it didn't make any money. Katie secretly drops what we find out is her demo CD into Guy Morgan's briefcase, and Bev leads Luke away. Wait, also, Luke is going to be producing the semester showcase. Guy says Luke is going to produce the semester showcase. Gail responds with, I produce the semester showcase, and Guy Morgan goes, I will double your budget. And she goes, great, Luke will be producing our semester showcase. So we cut to outside. Katie passes a field of soccer players and very nearly gets hit in the head with a soccer ball, but a girl dives in front of the soccer ball to catch it and talk to her. This will be our ethnic best friend. Her name is Angela.
She goes by Ange.
I liked her. She was nice.
She was very cute.
She does a really intense backflip to kick the soccer ball back to the soccer ball players. They talk about how hot Luke is. Katie tells Ange that, she slipped her demo CD into Guy Morgan's briefcase. And Ange suggests that Katie ask Luke to the dance. And Katie's like, no, I'm really shy with guys. And Ange is like, well, there's a first for everything. So this scene is where we meet Luke's brand new best friend, self-declared. This guy's name, we find out eventually, is Mickey.
Mickey O'Malley.
Mickey O'Malley. He is a Black Irishman. He does not have an Irish accent. I don't know why they decided to give him an Irish name, but whatever. It's fine. At least he doesn't go by the funk. So I'm fine with it. Everybody's mobbing Luke, trying to give him their demo CDs, and Mickey shows up and shoos them all away. And at this point, I was very confused because I thought that it had been established that Luke was a new student and didn't know anybody. And it turns out that I'm correct. This guy just extroverted his way into a friendship the way that so many of my extroverted friends have made friends with me, just sitting down and going, we're friends now. Oh, okay. So Mickey says that everybody in the school there are either wannabes or gonna-bees, and announces that he is a DJ and also does beatboxing, and they beatbox together, and then they hug and fist bump. I guess they're best friends now. Luke is asking him questions about Bev, the stepsister, and Mickey goes, she's hot, but she has mad drama. And Luke goes, "Oh, I don't want that. My last girlfriend was crazy hot but insane, and I want someone who's not gonna I'm not gonna have to like kick to the nut house," or whatever he says. I didn't get the exact line.
It was like very rude. It was really unnecessary.
It was very weird. It was also I do wind up liking this prince. Spoiler alert, Luke is gonna be our prince, and I like him. But this was a weird scene because when you meet somebody and they immediately start to talk about their psycho ex or how they always have crazy exes, there is a common denominator in those relationships, and um it's not the lady folk. So that's always a red flag for me, and it made me uncomfortable that he brought this up.
I also thought the scene was so clunky. Like they
Oh,
couldn't have thought of a different way to gradually introduce a new best friend. Like
nope.
they could have had a class together,
Oh,
like literally anything. Instead, Mickey walks out of a door and just
we're
starts
friends
being
now.
his friend.
I have declared it, we're friends. I I kind of I kind of like that just all the way in energy. I thought that was pretty fun, and I thought it was well done. The clunky exposition about everything else is terrible.
So our next scene is with Gail, and she is attempting to meditate with the help of her guru, who is an Indian guy with like a strong Indian accent.
His name is
And
Robbie,
his name is Ravi.
which we
Yes.
will find out when I go and Google it because I was trying so hard to figure out what his name was. I have it down wrong in my notes about 15 times, just completely different names.
I did not have that experience, but I see you and I hear you and I acknowledge your pain.
Thank you.
So he's telling her that her entire life is suffering because she craves that which is meaningless and that he's going to help her stop the craving. But she's not doing a good job meditating and she's complaining that her butt is numb and that she's not focused. So he does a release that butt song for her where he just kind of sings release that butt.
Yep.
Katie has to interrupt the meditation, even though she was told not to interrupt the meditation because dinner's ready and Gail wanted her to tell her when dinner's ready. So they have a back and forth about that.
Hmm. Gail responds to this with, "Thank God I'm craving a bourbon." So. And then Katie calls for Victor. My notes just go trapdoor, home alone, attic, garage, evil villain lair.
Victor's room is a two-part room, and you walk into the first part, and there's all these canopies draped everywhere. And then there's like what looks like a hula hoop in front of a doorway covered with like blankets above it. So it looks like you're crawling through a tunnel, but it's just a hula hoop. And then when you get into that, you have his secret evil villain lair. Because when Katie tells him it's time for dinner, he says, "Tell me something I don't know," which was the name of the song in the Selena Gomez Cinderella, which I thought was a cute beat. But it turns out that it's not, I mean, maybe it is a reference, but it's not primarily a reference because he has all these monitors set up and
Mm-hmm.
he's doing surveillance on the whole house. He picks up a remote and there's a helicopter drone situation
Mm-hmm.
and he's like watching what his mom is doing in the living room, which is talking on the phone again about how she's been embezzling money and she spent $5,000 at the spa and it was school money.
Yeah. So I missed that it was a hula hoop. I genuinely thought it was a tunnel, like the ones that dogs go through on agility courses. So that fooled me.
No, it like when you look head onto it, which is what they showed, it looks like a tunnel, but it isn't. It's just a hula hoop. It's fine.
The way it's filmed, I thought that he had like five different separate interconnected rooms with like secret passageways, and the other one was like the final one was in the attic above everything. I I don't know why my brain just assumed that that was the case, but that's what it felt like in my heart. So Victor closes the scene by saying mac and cheese and laughing evilly, literally steepling his fingers and laughing evilly.
Because he's used to surveillance to figure out what's for dinner.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions about that, and I wasn't really thrilled about the concept of secret surveillance, although it's mildly better because it is a small child. How old do we think Victor is in this?
Like 8 or under. He's very like small looking.
I would say 8 or 9 because
Okay.
I don't think he was small enough to be 6 or 7. 6 or
No, you're
7
probably
is
right.
yeah, but he's also not gangly enough or uh mature joke enough to be 11 or 12. So I think he's got to be between 8 and 10. So uh this next scene is just a somebody put in a line just for me personally and I appreciated it so much. They're they're at dinner and Gail is angrily storming about something. It doesn't really matter what, it's always something. And
It's the
Robbie,
showcase.
it's the showcase, okay. And Robbie goes, if you don't, he says some sort of uh, deep sounding something, and he goes, if you don't release the whatever, then you'll never be one with everything. And the stepmother says, that's a good idea, turns to Katie and says, make me one with everything. Talking about a drink, it's an old joke. It was one of the first ones that I learned as a kid. Dalai Lama walks into a bar, says, "Make me one with everything."
Oh, I didn't even get that. I wrote down that line.
It
That's
made,
so
it
funny.
made me so happy because as a kid, I remember having to ask why that was funny and what a Dalai Lama was. And then my dad got to explain to me Eastern religion, alcoholism, and the nature of humor. Um, so, anyways, I
All
love
in
that
one
line.
go. Wow.
It made me really happy. It went better than the drug talk. I'll just say that. Um,
So Gail regales everyone with the story of how she nearly got her big break, and everyone's already familiar with the story. And she's like, well, then you all know how it goes. And they flash back to her like doing a country song at a farm type showcase
yeah,
and
she
singing poorly.
Yeah, she's got braids and red plaid and it's the whole cowgirl routine, and she is, yeah, singing badly.
And everyone finishes the story for her with how, and they made you a laughing stock.
Hmm.
And then she complains about her family and she calls Katie her dwarfish, hairy elfin servant.
Hmm.
She calls her guru Asian and he corrects her with Indian.
Hmm.
And in response to all of this nonsense, the stepsister Bev goes, why don't you have another drink, mom? Very like resentfully.
Yeah.
And this whole scene ends with the guru telling her, you have no soul. I have many souls. Would you like one?
There are so many lines from Robbie in this scene. Gail is complaining partially at him. Everyone's talking over each other, which made taking notes really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And she's saying, you always are telling me nonsense. None of your stories ever make sense. And he starts to go into a parable that doesn't make sense, partially because it's weird, and partially because she cuts him off and goes, see, it doesn't make any sense. And he goes, well, it would if you'd let me finish. And they go back and forth. And she goes, well, you should know, don't you have a third eye? And he goes, I have a fourth eye. You want to see it later? And I died. I'm laughing out loud. It's a butthole joke, everybody, if you didn't get it. And I was dying because no attention is paid to it. We just move on with the scene. And I'm just over here trying frantically to type through just tears of laughter.
One
And
of the other things we find out in this scene is that Bev, the stepsister, has been practicing her singing and that she's gotten much better. She's reached a whole new level of singing, is what her trainer has told her.
mhm. So we see Bev singing, and it's terrible. Katie has played her a starting note on the piano, and Bev explains that Katie's bad playing threw me off. And we find out that Bev absolutely cannot sing, completely tone deaf, and that the stepmother does not like her and is making fun of her for being bad at singing. And uh, the stepmother storms off, going, meditate me, which I just heard in the doc. I just heard it,
Moisturize me.
moisturize me, which that just cracked me up.
In a fun character beat, Katie turns to Victor and goes, does that make me a bad person that I kind of enjoyed that? And he burps no in answer.
Hmm.
And I
Because he
thought
had,
that was he claimed he could burp the scales better than his sister was singing them. And
yep,
then he attempted to.
it was pretty cute. It was a cute moment, and I like that this is a scene where we see Victor being not evil.
Yes.
It's nice that we have this early in the movie. It makes the
Yes.
next scene really weird sequentially, but whatever. So we cut to Katie in the kitchen scrubbing dishes to ominous horror music. And she
There's a
keeps
scary over the shoulder look where like we see her from her back and she keeps looking over her shoulder
mhm,
to like look at the camera, and it feels very predatory. It's
yeah,
like spooky.
and they're playing horror music.
Yes.
It is Victor, of course, and he wants her to guess who's on their way over, and he's holding an open bottle of ketchup and an open bottle of mustard, one in each hand, preparing to squirt her. She dives for a towel, misses, and gets condiments all over her. So she wipes her face and goes to take a shower. She's singing in the shower. Victor runs in, steals her clothes, runs away. She is in a towel. Victor manages to steal her towel and lock her outside naked.
In one fluid motion.
It very, very fluid. Victor thought this through. Uh,
Yes.
so she's trying to get in. Victor says, I control every lock on this property, and she keeps running around trying to find a way in, carrying a conveniently shaped topiary. Mostly we get shots of her sort of from the knees down, which I like that it was from the knees down and not the thighs down. Um,
Yes.
but we do get a couple of scenes, and I think this is supposed to be for humor. It does not land as humor, but she's carrying a topiary where the pot is over her hips and the tree bush part is over her boobs, and
And when
the,
she runs later, she holds it behind her so that it's covering her butt and her back as well.
yeah,
But the effect of this is that she feels very naked to the viewer.
she does feel extremely naked to the viewer, even though this does not even show cleavage. There are bathing suits that are more showy than this, but it felt naked, it felt exposed. I didn't like it. I like that it was not played as sexual. I think this was really supposed to be a comedy beat, but it really wasn't. If they had just left her in the towel, that would have been a comedy beat with like soap in her hair or something. That would have been
Mm-hmm.
a successful comedy, but naked outside is not good. And of course, who should show up but Luke?
Oh, you missed.
Did I miss a thing?
You missed
What did I miss?
her solution to the nudity. She sees the welcome mat laying on the ground and picks it up and wraps it around herself in a tube. And that is how she encounters Luke.
Right, this is when I went to go look up Ravi's name and missed a couple of visual moments.
So Luke shows up and he goes, Katie, because they've met before. And then he goes, are you wearing a doormat? And she goes, Luke. And then she looks down and then she says, welcome, which I thought was a really funny beat.
It was. That was a funny moment.
She explains very quickly that her stepbrother locked her out of the house, and then she pauses and she goes naked, and he kind of looks at her, and it takes him a moment, and then he's like, oh, you should take my jacket, and he takes off his jacket and puts it around her shoulders, which I thought was kind of nice.
It
And
was
then she
nice.
goes, thanks, now the pants. And he starts taking them off, like we hear the zipper sound, and she goes, I'm kidding.
And he goes, you got me. It's a cute scene, but it's really weird. One, she's not embarrassed at all. She is just,
She's
well,
cool as a cucumber.
she's like, well, I mean, this happened. There's nothing I can do about this, so whatever. He is also not terribly surprised at meeting a naked girl outside of a house in a doormat. But I like that when he's sort of taken aback for a second, he does not look at her in sort of an up and down lascivious way, just in sort of a, I'm sorry, what? Kind of
He's
way.
very caught off guard by the situation, but he like goes with it.
Yeah, and his first instinct is to offer, as soon as he gets his head around the fact that she's naked, his first instinct is to offer her the jacket, which I thought was very lovely of him. He's also got a British accent, guys, which may or may not have increased his likability.
It's true. It worked for the girls in the movie and it was working for us while we were watching it.
I will be fair. A, I did like his accent, but B, genuinely, if any of the other princes we've seen had acted like this, I would have also liked them.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
just
No,
the accent,
he's
but the
much
accent
better.
helps.
So while this scene is taking place, we're also seeing a scene with Gail and Ravi, and he's guiding her through laying fruit on an altar to her personal deity to sort of manifest her dreams. And he's trying to do this in a more spiritual way, but she literally means she wants Guy Morgan to sign her daughter.
Yep. I'm so glad you took notes on that, because my notes say stepmother and Ravi are God something something. I'll put another banana on the altar.
Yes.
Next scene. So that's all I got from
Um,
there.
so Gail is like, help me achieve Guy Morgan. And he's like, I don't think it works that way, but I'll put another banana on the altar for you. And
Yeah.
then you hear this angelic chorus, and it turns out to be Katie's cell phone ringing in her pants, which Victor has left on the floor.
Yes.
And it's Guy Morgan. And Gail picks it up and is talking to him about it. He was trying to call Katie, but he like switches. He knows that he's talking to Gail. He understands. Yes. Oh, he's in the car and he's listening to the demo that Katie slipped him. And he's like, hey, that's the demo that your girl slipped me. And it sounds like Money Dear. Gail takes the phone, presses it to her shoulder, yells, Ravi, what freaking God did you pray to? And the doorbell is ringing and knocking because Katie and Luke are trying to get in. There's a cacophony of things happening.
Lots of things happen. And we hear Gail say, Guy, I'm not sure how to tell you this, but someone's not being entirely honest. And then we cut back to Katie and Luke outside having a getting to know you conversation while Katie is, again, naked and wrapped in a doormat. They have your dad doesn't get you conversation. And finally Luke goes, it's complicated. And Katie says, as complicated as me stuck outside in a welcome mat? And Luke says, that's not complicated. That's a gift from God. And then Beverly opens the door, lets Luke in, and then shuts the door, locking Katie outside again. And I was so confused by everything that happened. Just so many different things in that scene.
How do you feel about the gift from God line?
I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It was gross.
I think part of it for me was the fact that like it implied that all of her discomfort was for his benefit.
Yes. That
without taking it into account. If he had been like, well, I don't know, I'm not minding it.
Yeah, or like
acknowledging that from his perspective, things are good. But he said it in such a way that meant that her experience of it must have also been good, which it isn't.
He made it sound like a compliment to her, like he was giving her a compliment that like being in her naked doormat presence was a gift from God, which it was bad.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix this. Like everything I say to make it less gross is still kind of gross.
What he needed to do was be wearing a trench coat rather than a waist length jacket. He needed to be wearing like a thigh length or hip length, like a longer coat, and give her a coat that she could completely wrap around herself, button shut, and then just pretend that she's wearing a dress. That's what needed to happen. That's what needed to fix that scene.
Maybe.
His jacket was too short.
I mean, okay. She still kept the welcome mat on around her, and the jacket was the same length as the welcome mat. So
yes. Yeah, he needed to have
it covered her shoulders.
I mean, yes, and her behind. Well, no, because he needed a longer jacket. That's what I'm sticking with.
So in the next scene, Bev has pulled Luke to sit behind a piano with her, and she offers him like a lemonade. And then she says, my stepsister has body issues. I don't like to discourage her nudity. To which he responds with, she's absolutely lovely, which was a weird two people having very different conversations kind of moment.
Yeah. So Gail grabs Katie and says she knows about the demo and she's mad about it. And she says, I'd be proud if I cared about you. And she makes Katie play the guitar. Katie's still naked, by the way. She's still wearing a welcome mat.
No, at this point, she's taken off the welcome mat and just had time to button up the jacket, which is still just basically hip length.
She's still naked is my point. She's not dressed. She sings a really great mocking song of Gail, and it was cute. It was a good mocking song.
she's like a malignant tumor, no sense of humor. She's not a witch. She's just a terrible. And then it cuts out.
Yeah, with Gail saying, well, your lyrics are terrible, but I guess you can sing, or something like that. We cut to Luke and Bev at the piano, and Bev is leaning over him sexily, going, guess what other instruments I'm good at? And Luke goes, I could get in trouble for that question, in kind of a flirty way, and they lean toward each other like they're going to kiss. But Gail shows up, grabs Luke, hauls him out from behind the piano, and says, Luke, you have to go. Katie has to help me pass a kidney stone.
Yes.
And just shoves him out the door. And tells Bev the plan, that Bev is going to lip sing and Katie's going to actually sing, and tells Katie that if she doesn't do it, she will make her college savings disappear, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Bev is jealous. Bev is like, so you don't think I have any talent? Which I like that this shows up this early as well.
Yes. And her mom kind of gets her all twisted around by saying, like, you're a star, you're beautiful, you have that star quality, you're going to be on stage and people are going to be looking at you. And Bev goes, a bright gassy star, wow.
Yeah.
Katie's told no more talking to Luke or Guy Morgan, and as far as they know, she can't sing, so she needs to stick with that.
Yep. So we now cut to Luke and Mickey, which is my favorite scene of the whole movie. Luke and Mickey are on their way to listen to a band that Mickey has suggested.
I believe it's called the Oral Majority.
It is. And so he says that he has to go to the bathroom. He says, I have to use the facilities. And just at that moment, the music group comes up to Mickey, who is now by himself, and sort of greets him and then walks past him. And Mickey's like, no, hang on, wait, you gotta wait for my man to come back from the facilities. And so we cut to inside the men's bathroom with Luke at the middle urinal. And these 4 guys in this singing group flank him at all the other urinals, like right next to one another, which I'm pretty sure that's not urinal etiquette, towards the urinals like they're also peeing, which I want to believe they are, and start to just sing this beautiful 4-part harmony. It's like barbershop a cappella. It's excellent. And it's their audition, and he loves it. He's genuinely kind of bopping along.
While still at the urinal, he's jamming along to it, like looking to either side of him and just like nodding his head, like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm genuinely laughing out loud at this part. I'm genuinely cackling. This was the funniest scene.
He then goes, you guys are really good, and immediately runs away.
Yep.
My question is, how is this commercial? How is this commercial music? Because his dad was like, you have to find me something that's going to sell. And I feel like 4 guys singing a cappella is not what you would think of when you're thinking of like a sellable, like a sellout act, which is how Luke feels about it.
Well, that's not exactly how Luke feels about it. Luke says that he really likes their voices and he thinks that they have a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't mean about that group specifically. I mean, in general, Luke is approaching this assignment like selling out.
I have no idea.
Okay, never mind then.
I'm sorry. I cannot get over the concept of urinal barbershops, barbershop quartet, and I'm in a very happy place, and I refuse to contemplate any tough questions.
Okay, that's fair. So in the next scene, the best friend Angela shows up and she goes, I'm clean, no one followed me, and I got your intel. Oh, Katie, baby, your life sucks.
Yeah. And Angela's urging Katie to make Bev sound bad, but then I don't even know where they are. They're in some rooms, like an auditorium somewhere or something.
They're in a music room, and the reason they're in a music room is that Katie now has to rehearse in secret.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that your school's music room is the most secret place you can rehearse.
No.
Especially when you're hiding from somebody who goes to that school, which is exactly what happens. Mickey and Luke walk into the room. So Ange and Katie have to hide.
Mm-hmm.
and they're peeking out and just kind of like laying in wait for what's about to happen. What's about to happen is Luke pulls out a guitar and is about to start singing at Mickey. And Mickey's like, "You're not going to serenade a brother, right?" And they joke about there being a fine line to bromance. And then Luke starts singing at him his original song about how people don't get him and how he's like really deep, actually. And the girls like look at each other and they're kind of like amazed at Luke's
Mhm.
playing. Mickey's like nodding along, he's jamming, and then he starts singing along to the song he doesn't know,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
but he's like super into it. And then we hear the angelic chorus again, and it's Katie's cell phone going off because Gail needs her to drive home. We also find out that the reason that it sounds so good is because Luke wrote it, and it sounds like Danger Fruit because he wrote all of their songs.
Mhm.
And they decide that the band that he heard auditioning in the bathroom, which he's making Mickey swear never to do again, sounded really great. They had good acoustics, and together they decide that if they sing the song that Luke just sang, they could be in the showcase.
Yes. The song, by the way, is sort of a country rock song in, theme. I didn't get it as a sort of I'm deep song. I got it as a post breakup, I'm not taking you back kind of song.
I didn't
So
write this down. I'm just going off my memory.
yeah, no, I didn't write down the lyrics. Although one of the lines were my soul's in debt, but my bills are paid, which that kind of hurt.
I thought it was like, these are all the things that I care about. This is who I am as a person kind of song. No, that's later.
That's later. This is the I'm not taking you back. You can keep knocking, but the best thing for you to do is keep walking away because I'm not taking you back again. This
You're
is
right.
this is like a girl power breakup song, but for him, and I liked it. This is a good song. The Mickey harmonizing part is a little weird. It's totally possible to harmonize on a song that you've never heard before, but uh, not really in a modern genre. You can do that with old ballady folk music because they have very predictable tunes.
Hmm.
And you can easily harmonize by just picking a third or a fifth and staying there until it feels like you should change, which is not what's happening. Mickey is just harmonizing perfectly.
I thought it was a cute scene and I was willing to just kind of let it happen.
It was a cute scene, although when Luke talks about how he wrote Danger Fruit's album, Mickey is very impressed and he goes, "Oh, I love the bootleg of that I got online. Why would you tell an artist that you stole their stuff? Bootleg is you didn't pay for this. You pirated this online, which means that he's part of the reason that the album never made money, which is part of the reason that his dad doesn't like it. They don't discuss this. This is just a question that I'm asking. Nobody else cares about this. This is just me.
I'm just sitting here with my mouth open because I completely didn't process any of that. And now that you've said it, I'm just like my mind is blown.
Yeah, I mean, Luke doesn't process it either, so this isn't a problem for anybody except for us now. Um,
Great. Thank you. Thank you
you're
for that.
you're welcome. So Katie goes home and writes an answer song to his song in like 2 hours, which is
Yes.
not how songwriting works, BT dubs. Angie gives her a veil as a costume to wear to the school dance because there will be two parties in this. There will be a school dance and there will be a showcase.
Which I was mad about.
I was not mad about. That had sort of old school Cinderella vibes where there are three balls and she has to go on subsequent nights. I wasn't mad about that. I was mad about the romance between Luke and the stepsister. That was upsetting.
Yeah, I didn't like that. We'll get there.
We'll get there. Angie is encouraging Katie to talk to Luke, says, hey, he was flirting with you. And Katie responds, I was naked. Of course he was flirting, which he wasn't really flirting with her, though. They were just having a nice sort of connecting, getting to know you conversation.
With one dud of a line at the end.
Yeah. We cut to Gail and we get another joke about her wanting longer legs. Victor announcing that the cat in scare quotes, has pooped in her closet again. Gail goes down to the shed behind the house where Katie lives and realizes that she's going to try to go to the ball. There are antics while they try to hide the evidence, and Angie power rolls out of a window, but it is all for naught. Gail figures it out.
she puts Katie on Victor watch, and Katie says, I'll give Victor all the mothering you don't have time for. To which Gail responds with, oh, I wish you could be my mother.
I think the word she uses is mommy, which was extra upsetting.
Ooh, yuck.
Although the I'll give him all the mothering you don't have time for was an ooh, sick burn kind of line.
So then Angela shows up again and basically says, I couldn't let you not go to the dance alone. And she makes a joke about watching Twilight together. At this point, Victor is throwing their dinner, which is frozen fish, like whole fish.
Whole fish with
And
heads and
he
stuff.
throws it at the portrait and it lands in a different portrait of Gail.
Yep. And splits it in half.
Yes. To which everyone decides that it looks better that way.
And Katie is moping, wondering what Bev and Luke are up to, and Victor goes, they're probably making out.
He then shows Bev and Angela his like weird monitoring software.
Yeah.
And like all of his computer setup, and he shows them how Gail is trying to convince Bev to wear like little implants in her bra.
Oh, that's what that was. I was so confused about what was happening.
Yeah.
So Katie gets an idea, runs out of the room telling Angela to watch Vic. Angela goes, what about the demon spawn? And then Angela and Victor have a stare down where she barks at him and he goes, is that all you got? And then we just move on from that. Grown woman barking at a child. And then, so Katie races into Ravi's room where he is watching a sports of some kind, and shouting at the TV in a decidedly non-guru-like fashion.
He also has lost his Indian accent, and he has like a very heavy Jersey accent. He's wearing a tracksuit, which we haven't seen him in anything except like very traditional Indian clothes before.
Yep. So we get his backstory, which is that he wanted to be an actor. He is half Italian.
They call him Meatball.
My notes are so terrible. My notes go, he's half Italian, half Jersey. Fingers, what were you doing? Gail found him at a KFC and he wanted to be an actor, and she just decided that because he was Indian, he was a guru, and hired him, and he's thrilled because this is a paid gig and he's getting full immersive training and he's loving it. Katie promises that his secret is safe with her, but sort of begs him to watch Victor, to which he immediately complies, and fist bump, and they're friends now.
Yes, I thought it was cute that she didn't try to leverage it against them. She was like, your secret is totally safe with me. And she calls him Meatball when she asks him to watch Victor. And he's like, are you kidding me? Done.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a good scene. I also really liked that she did not leverage it over him. So we cut to the dance, which we established earlier has a Bollywood theme.
Oh boy, does it.
It sure does. So everybody is wearing veils, but not in a very traditionally Indian kind of way. They are wearing shirts that show the belly and then long, very full skirts that are brightly colored and have bangles and stuff on them. And it's not awesome in this moment. It's a little weird. Bunch of white people.
It's like very questionable.
Yeah.
But it's also it's what's happening.
It's a Bollywood theme. Like, okay, that's fine. And these are at least reasonable costumes. And we find out later that the costumes get much better. So Katie is trying to find Luke, but Luke is not to be found because he's in the bathroom again, being serenaded by a punk group with a chainsaw while he pees.
They're called Big Pain Ticket, and their lines include, I want to kiss your apocalypse, which I thought was phenomenal.
I, too, thought this was phenomenal. This has a very early emo feel to it. This took me back to middle school, or high school is what I'm saying. I like this.
It was great. They have a guy with a chainsaw, and Luke is worried about the chainsaw, and Mickey's like, the chainsaw's the best part.
And Luke's like, I don't think it's very safe though. So it's actually really good. So Gail is at the dance for some reason. We have no idea why. Do you know why she's there?
She's there just to monitor the situation, I think, to make
Uh,
sure that her daughter Bev doesn't mess it up.
she makes fun of Bev for eating food, which I didn't like.
Nope.
We establish that Katie is going to try to get Luke, and if something happens, Angela is to be a distraction. So,
Yes. And she thinks she spotted him because this is not only Bollywood themed, it's also masquerade.
mhm,
So he's wearing a mask, but she's found a tall blonde guy. She thinks it's him.
it is him.
It is
I like.
him.
I
Correct.
also liked. So she's wearing a full head veil that's covering her hair, and a veil that also completely covers her nose, so just her eyes are showing. I did not get any of the colors, but it's a very pretty outfit. And it does
Hmm.
make sense that he would confuse her, who has dark hair, and her stepsister, who has blonde hair, later because her hair is genuinely covered. So I liked the reason that he cannot find her later. I liked that.
I don't know. She has black eyebrows. Like you could tell.
Uh, Anyways,
Sorry.
so Katie goes up to Luke and she says, I know your secret. I heard you sing at school. I want to show you something. And Angela goes to the DJ and starts a dance battle with Gail.
That's exactly what happens.
Hmm.
She literally challenges her to a dance off by saying, I heard you wanted to be a dancer when you were younger, but you were never good enough.
So they have the intro to a dance off, which is quasi realistic, but with sort of a modern hip hop Indian dancing. It was weird. We cut between this and Katie, who is hauling Luke through a very beautiful, gently lit garden area with the. It looks like the garden at the end of the Princess Diaries.
Hmm.
It was just nice. She's hidden a guitar, and she drags him to the fountain, and I did not get this line. Did you get the line that he says to her?
He says, you hit a guitar. Are you hiding anything else? And then he says that by her eyes, everything else is covered, but by her eyes, he can tell that she has a radiant but mischievous beauty. And he goes, off with your veil so that I may know the truth.
And she says no, and he goes, "That was worth a try." He says it in a very theatrical way. I think Talon and I both found this moment very charming.
It was very cute because she starts singing at him, and it's a song about how she sees him. And there's a line saying, I'm knocking at your front door. And he's like so moved by it. He's like, okay, now take that off.
And
Um,
she declines again. He's so this is the answer song that she had written for him, and he is so clearly struck by this. Like he is this has hit him in his feels.
yes. And interspersed with this scene, we keep cutting back to the dance battle, where instead Angela takes off her face veil and it gets more intense. And then lots of other people join in, and it turns into this big dance number with a giant bed at some point.
Yeah, giant bed
But
and lanterns. It turns into a whole Bollywood routine, and at this point, it looks very much just like a Bollywood routine. It's just well done and very colorful, and people are dancing, and there's skirts everywhere, and lots of moving parts fit together very well. And
it was really fun to watch. Like visually,
yeah,
it was very beautiful.
yeah, had a good time with this. This was fun. It ends with Gail farting cinnamon.
Yeah, she mentioned going on some sort of cleanse before, and I think
Oh,
that's
okay. I missed that.
based on that. So Gail runs off,
Hmm.
and we switch hard to the end of Katie singing her song, like mid word,
Hmm. And
basically.
Luke says, "You're blowing my mind. I have to know who you are." And she starts to take her veil off, and Angela rolls in and she goes, "We have to go." And Katie responds with, "No, I can't. I'm kind of in the middle of a big moment." And Ange goes, "Someone had an accident and had to go home." And they flee.
There's also thunder and lightning at this point,
Yes.
and poor Luke is left alone going, but who are you?
Oh, it was so good. They make it home before Gail, and Katie goes back to her little shed house, and oops, nope, didn't meet Gail home. Gail is in the hut waiting for her when she turns the lights on, like an evil villain.
Yes, it was very dramatic.
It
Because
was.
they definitely was like, oh, I guess they're fine. They were not fine.
As soon as she got into her house and the lights were off, I was like, oh no, there's going to be somebody waiting for her. This movie has horror themes. There's going to be a pop scare. It's going to be Gail.
When she said that, like, oh, we beat her, I love you for this, to Angela,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, the tension's gonna come from her having to like hide her dress and change clothes really quickly and then pretend to be doing something with Victor. And like, that's gonna be like where we get the tense moment. No,
Nope.
that was not it.
So Gail is furious about this, about the whole Bollywood dance number that happened, and threatens to expel Angela, who has dreams of going to Juilliard to be a dancer, if Katie doesn't continue to go along with the plan and stop causing problems.
Mm-hmm.
So, hard cut to the next day, or some point in the future. Luke is just ranting and raving to Mickey about how gorgeous this girl was in her eyes. And he says she was, on a scale of 1 to 10, she was 11. And she's more than just beautiful, she has love potential. And I love that he was just ranting about how beautiful she was.
It was
Um,
very cute.
it was so cute because he was just besotted. It was so much better than she was so hot. I want to know where she went. It was like her eyes and her voice was just heavenly, and she was so. It was good.
It was very cute. Like,
Mm.
you got a real sense that he's having an emotional reaction to her song, as
Mhm.
well as like he thinks that she's like a beautiful girl that he talked to for a second.
It's a very heart and soul kind of thing. I really loved it.
Mm-hmm. So then we see Katie practicing her song in a music recording studio. I guess it's the music labs at the school. And Gail says, we're going to do this for hours until we get this right, even if it takes hours, which I thought was a funny line. And they're basically putting down the vocals so that Bev can lip sync to them later.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Mickey is helping Luke track down his mystery girl because they've decided that she's probably taking a music class, and the senior girls have music lab during sixth period, and so they're just going to go through rooms looking for her is the
Hmm.
plan, which I thought that was a good way of narrowing it down.
Yeah. No, that's as plans go. That's good. You've narrowed it down to, yeah, singy person, probably in a singy place. I,
Yeah.
I like that so much better than exists somewhere in space and time.
Yes. And so they're going around and they open a door and there's some girls practicing. Mickey says that Luke is looking for some sweet vocals for his big showcase coming up, and he wants to listen to the girls sing. And I thought that was clever too, that they had like a thing that they could,
Was reasonable.
yeah.
Yeah. This scene just made me laugh so much. One of the girls races up to him and starts just aggressively sexually singing at Luke. And then an angry teacher comes in, screeching that the boys aren't allowed in their class. And what happens is Luke, Mickey, the aggressive singing girl, and the angry teacher do a Scooby Doo bit where everybody runs in and out of different doors and across hallways and bumps into each other. And it was a really well done Scooby Doo bit. Just
It was really cute.
it was super cute.
There's a guy with a tuba in one of the rooms. Great comedic bit. Tubas are always funny.
I completely missed that.
At one point, the girl opens the door and like sniffs the air looking for Luke,
Mhm.
which was also a great scene.
The whole Scooby Doo bit was extremely funny. I love a good Scooby Doo bit. So at this point, Mickey and Luke, out of breath, stumble back into a hallway and go, "Oh, we're back where we started." But in the distance, Luke can hear her singing. He goes, "That's her voice. I can hear her."
It's
And
Katie's voice.
it's Katie's voice. You can hear Katie singing. And Mickey creates a distraction and offers to audition the aggressive girl and the angry teacher at the same time. Aggressive teacher starts to badly sing opera.
Mm-hmm.
So Luke races to the studio and hears a song, and there's a girl in the studio, and we can't really see who she is. And we come closer, and she turns, and it's Bev. And Katie is also there, sort of in the background, just very upset, just disgusted and kind of heartbroken.
Mm-hmm. And Luke goes, "It was you? I didn't think I'd see you again."
Bev does not know that Katie and Luke had an interlude.
So Gail is also there, and she's facilitating Bev and Luke's romance on top of their singing career. And
Yes.
when he goes, "I didn't think I'd see you again. We really connected." Gail goes, "And you connected when you," and she's kind of leading him on to tell Bev what happened so that Bev can play along.
Mm-hmm.
But then Gail kind of pulls her out of there and says that she has to prepare for her showcase editions. And Luke says, like, "You don't have to audition, you're in." So the angry teacher bursts into the room, and she finally is about to yell at Luke for interrupting everything. But instead, she has a showdown with Gail, who protects Luke and says, "I can have you fired in one phone call." And the angry teacher goes, very upset, "I have tenure. It would take at least 5 phone calls." And they go back and forth, like 2 phone calls in a text, or 3 phone calls in a strongly worded email, and then 2 texts in a tweet. And they go back and forth like that. And so finally, Gail goes, "Go like a chalkboard." And the angry teacher goes, "Fine." And then there's a long pause, and she very petulantly goes, "I hate you."
Okay, so that did happen to you too. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
I could not track that. It was very funny, but I did not understand it, and it felt like a train that came out of nowhere and then vanished without a trace.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of the aggressive teacher. I want to say her name is Mrs. Plumberg.
Sure. We're never introduced to her, that's for sure.
No, we're not.
So, at the end of this very bizarre scene, Luke asks Bev out on a date. He wants to write a song together. And Gail demands, after he leaves, that Katie somehow assist in this process. So we cut to their date. They're at a very fancy restaurant, which just, they're teenagers, they're in high school. Or are they in college? Because,
No, they're definitely in high school.
okay, but she says she's the dean of Wesley, and Wesley's a college.
It's a school. It's a high
It,
school.
okay. Anyways, they're at this extremely fancy restaurant, and I'm just remembering the dates on high school that I went to, which was Denny's or the art museum, which is free. So this felt weird for me. He's talking to her about how sexy her singing is, but when you hit that high note, it was just angelic. And Bev is playing along extremely poorly. Like he'll say, "Oh, and you told me you loved that," and she goes, "I did? I do. I mean, yes, I did that." It doesn't go on forever each time, but almost everything he asks her, she manages to screw up somehow, which he's somehow oblivious to.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening is Katie is sending her texts of what to say. This is just Cyrano de Bergerac at this point.
Yes.
And Bev keeps getting things wrong. From the text, she says moose instead of muse, angle instead of angel. And she says that the reason she's checking her phone so much is that her grandmother broke her hip and is texting her everything. At one point, Luke asks her, "What is your inspiration for your songs?" And Katie, who is at the restaurant at a different table, has to pause and think about it for a while. So Bev just restates the question, but screams inspiration at the end. And
Mm-hmm.
Katie is very startled by this and drops her phone into her coffee, thus killing it. So Katie runs away, and Bev also runs away, announcing that she has to go to the bathroom. And Katie and Bev meet outside and have a very strange conversation where Bev decides that she doesn't need Katie's help. She says, "I taught good. He likes me. I don't need your help. You think you're good, but you're not. I'm pretty. People like me. Whatever, something like that."
Mm-hmm.
Katie sends her off with, "Good luck with that." Just
Yeah. Very
very matter of fact.
genuinely, "Hey, good luck."
It's the kind of good luck where it's not sarcastic, but it's when you're watching something that you know is going to crash and burn.
Yes,
It's
100%.
genuine, but also that's going to catch on fire in 3, 2, 1. So Bev sits back down at the table, and Luke, who doesn't want to do anything to talk about music, says, "So let's talk classical. Mozart, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Swan Lake. I bet you're a Swan Lake girl." And Bev goes, "My grandma died," and flees the table.
She goes completely deadpan. "I have bad news. My grandma croaked." And he goes, "Oh my God, do you want to talk about it?" And she goes, "No, I prefer to remember my grandma's memory in silence," and like leaves.
It was great. I like that she did not try to. I like that she immediately realized that she was dramatically in over her head and just leave,
Yes.
just bail.
Yes.
I like that they did not belabor that point. They got it across, and that was a funny, oh no moment.
That
So,
would have been agonizing to watch if they'd made us sit through that. I'm
that would
so
have been
glad they didn't.
me too, because it was a nice amount of comedy right there. That was a good amount.
So in the next scene, Victor cuts out the face from the portrait of his mother that was being painted.
Yes.
Her like weirdly spiritual painting that she commissioned,
yes.
where she's like holding her hands together. Gail gets really upset about it, and she goes to find Katie, who's vacuuming a chandelier. And is like, "You wanted it to sparkle. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you." She demands that Katie throw it away. Meanwhile, Luke shows up, and Victor is at the door just making noise at him with his electric guitar again, which leads into Luke being kind of a sweetheart and offering to show him how to play some chords.
Oh, it's so sweet, because they're basically just having a screamy conversation where Luke goes, "Can I see Bev?" And Victor goes, "Does she know you're coming?" And Luke goes, "You're making a lot of noise." And Vic goes, "It's because I don't know how to play this." And Luke goes, "Would you like me to show you some chords?" And Vic immediately stops making all sounds and goes, "I thought you wanted to see Bev." And Luke says, "Bev can wait a couple minutes," and just hunkers down, pulls a guitar out of his pocket, and just shows him 3 chords, says, "I want to show you these 3 chords, and we're going to make a song," and just sits on the floor and plays a song with him and shows him chords. And Victor is suddenly amazing at guitar, by the way.
Yes.
But it's
And
the
they jam out
sweetest.
together. It's
The
cute.
sweet. Oh God, it was so sweet. It just my heart melted. I already liked Luke a bunch. I like Luke so much more.
It was a really nice moment. At this point, Katie walks onto the scene, and he's like, "Oh, I keep running into you here." Does he not know that she sort of lives here?
He appears to be a little clueless.
And she notes his specific guitar that he's playing. I think she says a Calvert. Does that sound right?
Gallagher.
Oh my God. I was like,
I mean, I have subtitles on for all of these. There's no way.
oh, I forgot. I forgot about subtitles.
No, I can't do these without subtitles because I have to have the visual memory of the words as well as the oral memory, or I could not take notes. It would be impossible.
Wow. Oh man.
I'm so sorry. It's a Gallagher. And Luke is deeply impressed, and he goes, "Oh wow, you know guitars?" And Katie goes, "No. I mean, yes, sort of." And Luke says, "You keep running off. I wish you wouldn't do that. You're actually kind of cool."
He doesn't say kind of. He tells her, "You're really cool."
Okay, I missed that note then. But it's a cute scene.
Yes. And she's like, "You think I'm cool?" And he kind of waffles his hand back and forth, like, "Oh, yeah."
Cute.
So then Bev shows up, and she grabs Katie and pulls her into a different room and is like, "I need your new song. Just give me what you have so far." And she's like, "Don't break my heart." And Bev is like, "What?" And Katie's like, "That's the lyric. That's what I've got." And Bev is like, "You're giving me a twitch." So they go to Victor because Bev knows that he has all of his like creepy little surveillance. They crawl through the hula hoop. He tells them, "You're trespassing and you just entered a world of hurt." She tells him, "I won't tell mom if you do me a favor." And they get set up with mics so that Katie can hear everything that Bev is saying, and Bev can hear what Katie's telling her to say. And they're going to do like a surveillance kind of.
We're going to have another Cyrano scene.
We're going to have another Cyrano scene.
Although we do get the horrifying line from Vic when asked about, "What do you mean everywhere?" He says, "Mom swallowed a mic. You do not want to hear the live feed."
He says that he has him in all sorts of nooks and crannies, and Katie's like horrified, and she's like, "What kind of nooks and crannies?"
Evidently, Gail's gastrointestinal tract is
Ooh,
one of
yikes.
those places, which doesn't make any sense because she would have had to eaten it fairly recently.
She could
Eh,
have.
that's fair. She did eat worms like 2 days ago.
So Victor doesn't pick up on the fact that Katie doesn't want to do this, but he hands her the mic and basically is like, "You put it in your ear and you talk."
Well, she mounts, say no very broadly at him, and he sees it and decides to do it anyways. So I
Mm-hmm.
think what happens is he doesn't know the stakes,
Mm-hmm.
and he thinks this is just a regular thing as opposed to a thing with stakes.
Yeah, and he's also being threatened with being like in trouble with his mom, who
Yeah.
is scary.
Yeah. So Bev goes down to the room where Luke is, which has a bed.
I think
Or
it's her bedroom,
it's her
and they're just
bedroom.
hanging out on her bed.
Yeah. Which is a little weird, but whatever. And so Katie just has to write lyrics on the spot, which again, I felt this in my soul.
The way that they decide to work together on the song is that Bev is not going to do any of the playing. She's going to write the lyrics and he's going to put them together to music, which I thought was very smart because that's the only thing you can do. Like you can fake.
Yep, that's it. So that was smart of her. The lyrics are, "Don't break my heart before I give it to you. Don't tell me no before I ask you to." Uh,
Don't say it doesn't fit before you try it on. There's too much to lose to be wrong.
yeah, the "don't say it doesn't fit before you try" was just
It was very silly.
different energy. My mind went in a different direction with that one, and it was hard to get it back on track. Anyways,
My
Luke.
notes say that there's a lot of shots of Bev smiling at Luke that I
Mhm.
didn't like because she seems like she might be like actually into him. And he definitely seems like he's into her.
Oh yeah, he's definitely again struck by these lyrics because they feel very personal. The song continues, "If there's something real between you and me, or are we both open to," and just stops, and he starts to sing a perfect song that is fully written.
Yeah.
And
Uh
the song ends with "all the possibilities." So,
Victor is watching Katie's reaction to this because they're watching this on the monitor
mhm,
and she's kind of smiling at the screen and then Bev scoots into the frame and her face kind of falls.
mhm.
And after Luke finishes writing the song, like playing the song, they go to kiss. And Katie bursts into the room yelling, "Who wants pie?"
I mean, they
And
do kiss. They kiss.
yes, they do kiss.
Yeah, it's not just an attempted kiss. There's actual smoochage. Smoochage.
She runs
Smooch.
into the room as they're kissing, yelling
I'm
about pie.
yes. Victor is weirdly sympathetic to her at this moment and announces that he too would like pie. Luke leaves to go do something,
He just says
and
I should go
yeah,
because Bev is like really angry and she's like, "Nobody here needs any pie."
yeah. So we cut to Katie crying in the darkness outside her
Oh,
house.
you
We
missed
don't?
the moment.
Oh, I did? Okay.
So Katie looks really upset and Victor takes his hand and kind of puts it on her arm.
Oh, I missed it.
It was very sweet.
Aw.
And then
So
Katie's crying and going back to her shack.
yeah, so Katie's crying in the darkness and a really lovely scene. Like it's well shot. It's dark, but she's silhouetted. It's nice. It's mood.
Hmm.
And she gets into her bed, but surprise, Pop Scared Gale is in her bed.
Oh my God, she just pops up.
Literally, Katie goes to get into bed, puts her hands on her mattress, on her blankets, and Gail just sits up. And I cannot imagine a worse pop scare in my life than somebody reaching up at me out of my blankets. My bed is my safe space. That that's a horrifying concept.
It's really invasive.
Oh, it's so invasive. Even if she was sleeping on top of the covers, it would be invasive. But she's not. She's sleeping under the covers, fully dressed.
Wrong. It's wrong. It's not
Pres-
okay.
yeah, presumably with shoes on as well. Anyways, she says, "While I was waiting for you, I meditated so strenuously that I fell asleep." And then we cut to Ravi, who's going to Victor and announcing that today we're working on silence and potty training. Ravi finds the secret lab and watches the live feed of Gale threatening Katie.
Mm-hmm.
And for a minute, Katie thinks that Gale is apologizing to her for making her go through with this. And
well, because Gale is like, I really thought about telling you how wrong it is that how I'm living down to the stepmother archetype, and that I'm, making you give up your dream for my daughter. And so she is saying a lot of things that sound like an apology.
yeah. And Katie goes, "Are you saying you're sorry?" And Gale's like, "Oh, no, not at all." And then says, I wanted to tell you this. You're never going to amount to anything."
Oof.
Victor at this point has joined Ravi. Victor, of course, also knows that Ravi is not a guru and says,
That Ravi is actually Tony.
yeah, and says, "Your accent is as fake as my mom's soul," which was a great line. Gail says there's a loophole that will allow her to get the money left to Katie by her father.
If she needs it for medical expenses, and she's like, "Guess who's gonna be taller?" Which I don't think that would work.
Yep.
Because that's clearly cosmetic.
Well, she's clearly done a bunch of sketchy stuff. She's clearly good at embezzling. So Ravi and Victor go to Katie and ask if they can help. Victor announces that he will poop in her bed tonight.
Yes. There's a really sweet scene where Katie's surprised that Victor's helping, but he's like, "You're the only person who knows my birthday, and you make me mac and cheese, and you're annoying and ugly, but I sort of love you." And she tells him, "I sort of love you too," which I thought was very sweet.
It's cute. There's also a nice comedy beat in this where they're having this conversation and Gail storms in and Ravi immediately has to switch from
From
Tony
his Tony accent to his Robbie accent.
and pretend he was in the middle of a different conversation. And it's a really funny comedy moment. Just the three people suddenly improving a different scene in their scene. It's completely irrelevant, but it's a funny moment.
The scene ends with Katie making both of them promise to her that they're not going to do anything because she doesn't want to jeopardize Angela's future.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes to fold Bev's laundry, and Tony and Victor play fight, and it's really cute. Like, I like that little Tony and Victor moment.
Oh yeah, it's really cute and it's very humanizing. I loved it. So Beverly storms over to the hut where all of her clothes are hanging on a line and she is sorting through them.
Katie's doing Bev's laundry, and that's why that's happening.
Yeah. And Bev says, "Which one should I wear? The blue one or this one?" And then Katie goes, "Why are you asking me?" And Bev goes, "I don't know. Why am I asking you?"
She basically is like, you know how people think that you're kind of like self-involved and selfish, and I'm like, I act like I don't care, but I'm actually sensitive and deep. And so when she says that, Katie goes, "Well, actually, I don't think," but Bev keeps talking, is like, "I'm nervous about tonight. It's like my whole body's freaking out." And she starts talking about her symptoms.
Yeah. She says, "I need someone to talk to like a sister. I guess you're better than nothing."
Oof.
Yeah. And they don't bond, but it's a weird pseudo bond.
They kind of understand each other more than they did before at the end of the conversation.
Yeah. Bev is like, "You're talented. All I can do is stand there and look pretty. I don't know who."
Doesn't last.
And pretty doesn't last. Just look at my mom. She also says, "I don't know who me is anymore."
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. It's a pretty crushing scene, actually.
It made me really sad. It made me
too.
really sad for Bev.
Because there's so much that she could do if she were allowed to flourish rather than being shoehorned into her mother's career, which she does not excel at.
Which is why I thought it was kind of weird that she couldn't find anything to talk to Luke at their like one date, because he was talking about how his father wants him to be someone he's not. Yeah, and he asks, "Is that stupid?" And she goes, "Yes. I mean, no." But in that moment, you think that she could relate.
Yeah, it was weird. But I think Bev's character is the least fleshed out.
Yeah, they keep going back and forth on like how committed she is to this.
Yeah.
and how much she actually wants this versus her mom's making her do it.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I think there was a balance to be had there, and I don't think they hit it, but they got
No.
pretty close. They got
Yeah.
they got within acceptability.
I disagree. The ending doesn't work for me, and we'll talk about it when we get there.
Well, it works in this moment. I thought the ending was going to go differently,
Yeah.
in my defense. So now it is time for the showcase. Whee! Mickey introduces Luke as his British biscuit.
Yes. Yes, he does.
Okay. What do you think that's a euphemism for?
Is it cracker?
Well, biscuits are cookies. It sounds like a bromance thing. It sounds
Oh,
like a
okay.
it sounds like a lovers thing, and again, it took me a long time to get past it. Anyways, so it's this big stage, big stadium, tons of people, lights, and sort of oons oons music. This looks like a really great party, actually. I mean, it's way too loud for me. I would be unhappy there. But the energy is really high. I believe that people there were having a good time. And they,
Definitely.
yeah. And they open with a chainsaw heavy metal band, which is called Big Pain Ticket. And the lines are, I want to kiss your apocalypse, wrap you in my Armageddon, sing you a twisted serenade. And I love this song. I want to find the song and download it and listen to it because I really like it.
I wish they had used the song for the credits. I would have watched the whole credits.
Me too. Me too.
The fancy music producer Guy Morgan, shows up to this high school showcase, and
Mhm.
there's like paparazzi outside of it taking his photo, which I thought was really funny. And he's brought two guys, both named Tom. So there's Tom, and then there's also Tom.
Yeah.
And he
Um,
asks his son, and he asks Gail, "Did I miss your big lineup?" And she's like, "No, no, no. The best part's coming up."
I don't think this is just a high school thing. I think this is searching for the showcase for the talent for like you win the next record label for this guy's thing. So it's more than just a high school production. This is
I
like an
thought
American Idol type thing.
I thought this was an incredibly hyped up high school talent show.
No, I think this is more than high school, although we only see the people from their school. So maybe this is just a really rich person high school thing.
I think this is a really rich person high school thing because they say they do this every year, and that usually it's produced by Gail.
Yeah, this
And
is
this
a
is,
stadium
remember, this is
full.
double their budget.
Yeah, well, okay, but still, it's huge. It's massive. Anyways, Gail threatens Katie again with expelling Angela and ruining her future if she screws it up. But Angela overhears and runs over and is like, "Oh my God, you've been doing this to protect me. Oh my God, you're the best friend," or something. It's a
And
cute
Katie
moment.
goes, "And you're my best friend. I'd do anything for you." And they hug, and it's a very
It's
nice moment.
yeah. I I love that as a compelling thing because you can decide to not go to college and you can get a job and move out, but the concept of ruining your best friend's career,
Mm-hmm.
that's a really powerful ticket item to hold over somebody, and I liked it so much better than I'm taking away your college money. Get a loan. Nobody gets college money. It's fine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I really like that is the reason that things happen. I like that.
I thought it was very compelling. Like, I found it very motivating personally. I
Yeah,
was like, yeah, damn, okay.
absolutely. So Guy Morgan comes in to see the end of the Chainsaw Band's number. He is not impressed, proving that he has no taste as a human being.
What a
Um,
garbage man.
Mickey announces the next act, but they throw up and run off stage. So that's our third puke joke
Ugh,
in our Cinderella sequence.
yeah.
I I hate that I have to keep track of this. So the a cappella group comes up next, singing the song that Luke wrote, and it's really cool. It's got more of a pop flavor now.
It's a really good arrangement. At first, I was like, who is he to come in and tell them that their song's no good and to sing his song? But it actually works like really well. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I think that their cover of his song is better than his cover of his song.
Yes, for sure.
And the crowd goes wild. They love it. Victor and Gail and Ravi are all sitting next to Guy Morgan, and Vic announces that he has to go pee, and Ravi announces that he will take Victor to go pee, and they both get up and leave. And
Yes.
Gail's like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what that's about.
And of course, they book it backstage.
Mhm. So Bev's up next. She's wearing something short and gold and sparkly, and she's lip syncing to the song that we had in the opening dream sequence song.
Mm-hmm. Which is
And
about like being a star and everybody's eyes being on her,
mhm,
and just like tonight's the night, that kind of thing.
yeah, Katie's watching this, and she's watching Luke, and Victor sneaks up behind her, grabs the recording that
I think
Katie
it's
has.
on an iPod.
It's on an iPod. Katie's plugged this thing into an iPod, and Bev is lip syncing over it. Vic grabs the iPod, unhooks it so that the singing part stops, and
The music is still playing though.
yeah. And Bev is freaking out, and she's like, "My mic stopped working. I'm sorry," because the crowd starts to boo.
Mm-hmm.
But she pretty convincingly is like, "My mic is broken. I can't." And Vic smashes the iPod on the ground and stomps on it, and Katie sort of pretends to be mad.
At this point, Gail makes it onto the scene
Mhm.
and and shoves a microphone into Katie's hands and goes, "It doesn't matter. We'll do it live." And she's about to sing for Bev.
Yeah.
And she stands backstage. Meanwhile, Gail is running around trying to get the music restarted because it's been turned off and
Mhm.
to get this whole thing going. And Luke finds Katie and is like, "You're about to sing for Bev. Why?" And Katie's like, "She can't sing." And he's like, "It was your voice the whole time." And she
It
kind
was
of,
your lyrics.
yeah.
Like, it was your lyrics.
And she kind of brushes him off because she has to go.
Mhm.
And he runs off, but then he comes back with a camera and he records her singing.
Well, so the music starts up again, and she sort of peeks out from behind the curtain and makes hard eye contact with Bev, who's panicking. And Katie starts singing, and Bev immediately starts lip syncing, like they've had a moment of just, okay, I got you, go.
Mm-hmm.
And Bev starts lip syncing again, and the music starts up, and the crowd goes back to being happy. And Luke runs off and comes back with a camera and is filming Katie, so that Katie is on the big screens instead of Bev. So we've gone from Cyrano de Bergerac to Singing in the Rain in terms of themes. And then somebody shoves her out on stage.
Angela does. Angela gently pushes Katie towards the stage and tells her to go. And then Katie takes that last step by herself, I think.
Okay. I gotta
Um,
say, these backup dancers are extremely chill about the switch up of the primary dancer singer.
yeah, they really adjust to it really well. Bev runs off once Katie's on stage,
Hmm.
which I thought that was sad. Like, this is the thing that I have a hard time with. She's just been exposed in front of her whole school as like lip syncing, and it wasn't even her idea to begin with.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like unduly harsh to have. I don't know. I was really caught in the middle between my happiness for Katie for getting to sing on stage, because she really like opens up when she's on stage, and you can see that she's not only a singer and a writer, she's also a performer.
Yeah. I like that for Katie. I also like that she made the decision to support her stepsister, and, back her up because she can't sing.
Hmm.
So I don't know how I would have fixed that.
Yeah, I have no idea how to make that work. It just made me sad and then happy and then sad at the same time.
Well, I think what would have fixed it was for the stepsister to have a complete personality change and be like, my stepsister's the real star of the show, and bring her backstage. Or when they make eye contact, rather than just turning around and starting to dance again, to come back and grab her hand and pull her out.
Hmm.
I
Or to
think
like
that would have
hand her off the microphone, like her, instead of her pretending to sing, to give her,
the microphone and
to give
just
Katie the microphone and then
and
like
just
have
leave.
that be the gesture.
Yeah.
and like step back and like clap for her or something like
Yeah,
that.
that would have saved it, because I was sad for Bev. As much as she is a terrible person, like, teenagehood is hard.
Yeah, especially with that mom. Like, are you
Yeah,
kidding me? She
and that
didn't.
much pressure to succeed and to be someone that you're not, and just to be fed lines about who you are and who you need to be, and it's just I really felt for Bev. And so the ending for Bev made me unhappy.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it could have also worked if Beth had been meaner the whole time, if they didn't have any of those like connection moments
oh
and she
yeah.
was just like, I want to do this and no one's ever going to know that it's you singing.
Oh yeah.
Like, if she
If she
hadn't
had
been conflicted about it,
oh yeah.
then I wouldn't be conflicted now.
Yeah, either Bev needed to either finish her personality growth arc and voluntarily hand the microphone to Katie, or she needed to not have a character growth arc and just be awful the whole time, so we can cheer her when she is humiliated. Uh,
Yeah.
this was splitting the difference, and that difference is not splittable.
Yes.
So Katie's out
So
singing, everybody loves her. Gail is racing around in the background, shrieking, shut it down, and she tries to unplug something,
she's just pulling out wires.
which has an effect, by the way. Like, if in a real life scenario, that would screw some stuff up.
Yeah, it doesn't have an effect within the movie. Like, everything's still going, everything's still playing, all the lights are still on, like
Yeah.
nothing bad has happened.
Hmm.
Is this where Tony comes up and electrocutes her?
Well, she does punch him in the face first.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Because my
So
notes get really fuzzy here.
yeah. So Robbie comes up to her, Tony, and there may or may not even be a line here. The ending was very frantic, but he tries to stop her or remove her from something, and she just punches him full in the face. And so he takes the two electric things that she's just unplugged, says clear, and touches them to her torso, which makes an electric shock, and she goes flying off of whatever little stage thing they're on. And I couldn't enjoy the rest of the movie all the way because I wasn't sure if she was dead.
Yeah, they show us later that she's not dead,
Yeah, a couple of minutes later, we're fine. But
but she definitely could have been dead.
yeah, we don't know how high up that thing was. We don't know what the voltage or amperage on that thing was. Humans are really not great with electricity, especially if it goes through the old ticker. So we were not sure about her alive state.
Mm-mm.
But putting that aside, the crowd wants more of Katie. She finishes her song and the crowd is still roaring for more. And Luke tells her, sing the demo song, the song that you gave to my dad. And she starts to sing it. And my note again is it's really impressive that the backup dancers had a whole routine prepped for a song that literally no one's ever heard.
Including the fact that they like pick her up and
Oh,
she's
yeah.
doing this like straight arm T pose
It's a
and they
whole.
like lift her aloft and then set her back down again. It was
it's
very
a
impressive.
it's a very complex routine to happen on the fly.
I also like that during this moment, Angela rips the jacket off of Katie and you see
Yes,
that she's wearing this really cute dress underneath.
it's nice. It's a nice moment. Luke joins her on stage with the guitar, and he's singing with her and playing the guitar, and the crowd goes wild, and the song ends, and they kiss, and the crowd goes more wild, and it's a silhouette kiss. It's really cute. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Guy Morgan is looking very serious. Angela is super happy for Katie, jumping around and hugging. Guy Morgan comes down and sort of talks seriously to Luke quietly and gives him that sort of weird pat on the head that guys do to one another. It's sort of an affectionate head ruffle. I don't know. It's a weird thing dudes do. And Katie says, he looked pretty mad. Is he okay? And Luke goes, he is pretty mad that I'm not already making the next big album for, the company. And Katie's face kind of falls and she goes, oh, whose? And he goes, yours. And she's delighted and she's like, mine, yeah, yours. Oh my god, are you serious? Yeah, yours. And we're doing it together. And they're gonna write the songs together and they're gonna sing together. And they kiss again. And
And
it's
then
just
at this point, Gail sits up and
yes.
like you can breathe a sigh of relief and everybody's laughing together and hugging.
Yep. We then get a teaser of credits. Credits start and then they stop. Gale races after Guy and basically just trying to get him to come back or something. And he goes,
Mhm.
"More lies?" And she goes, "Everybody lies in this business. It's called spinning." And he just leaves and says, "I'm going to call the school board." And Bev walks past her and says, "Give it up, Mom." And Gale goes, "I will have my Nirvana moment." And we cut to Gale at a hoedown. Back, not back because this isn't a flashback, but
It
she's
looks exactly like the flashback, but in big signs everywhere it says 2012, which is the future for this movie because it came out in 2011.
yeah, so this is future. She's back exactly where she was in the same braids and checkered shirt and cowboy boots, singing Katie's song this time, but badly. And people throw bottles at her again, and she jumps off the stage like she's going to punch somebody, and we get a freeze frame there, and then we get the credits for real. And then we stop the credits again and have another dance scene where Gail is dancing happily with everybody else, and it took me a second to be like, "Oh, this is just the cast. This is just the cast having a dance
Yes.
together. Okay, this is fine." Because for a minute I was so baffled, and then
And
the
then we start
credits.
showing some bloopers with the credits, and then we're done. We're
We're done.
done.
We're done with this. So yeah, this was such a wild ride.
Yeah, this was pretty fun. I had a good time.
Me too. I had such a better time than I was anticipating.
I was really not expecting to like this at all.
I was really concerned because I didn't care for the first one, and we both despised the second one. And
Oof.
when you have a whole bunch of sequels of things, they don't tend to get a lot better the
No.
longer you go.
Mm-mm.
But I guess this is the exception that proves the rule. So
Yeah.
highs and lows.
This is so weird, but I think my high was the music.
That's
I
fair.
thought the music was genuinely good. I liked seeing all the different bands sing. I
Hmm.
thought that was really fun. Maybe it's because my standards were so low, but I was so pleasantly surprised by how palatable the music was.
Well, no. So every song was singable.
Hmm.
Every song lasted a reasonable amount of time, i.e., less than 2 minutes, except for maybe the last dance number, which fine, the last dance number can be longer than 2 minutes. And everybody could sing. Everybody had a beautiful singing voice who sang.
Hmm. Yeah, it was
And
really nice.
and the only song that we get a reprise on is the opening song, which we only get in the opening. So we get a whole at least hour and a half between when we
And
hear that
by
song the
that
first
point,
time and
and
when
by
we hear
that
it again.
point, when you hear it a second time, you're kind of like, oh, I vaguely remember this. Yeah, this is catchy.
Like, oh yeah, this is the one from the beginning, right? I like this. Is the dream sequence. This is nice. I'm with you. I can't fault you on that.
Hmm. I think my low was like the gross out humor. Like anytime they mentioned like the poop or like when we saw somebody throw up, like I didn't like that.
Yeah, there was definitely some just easy body humor that was not the best.
Oh my god, the nakedness, the nudity, that's
I
my
was
low.
I was gonna say that's
I
not your
blocked that
low.
out. I
You
blocked
blocked
that
it.
out.
Yep. That's
No,
what
the
I figured.
nudity is my low. I don't think we needed that.
Yep. Yep. You are correct. We did not need that.
He could have
Um
seen her covered in ketchup and mustard and it would have been like equally embarrassing and it could
yeah,
have like added on to them like not knowing each other very well yet because
I
she would have been like I have to go.
like I'm covered in ketchup and mustard. I have to leave. That would have
And that's
been
still like very memorable and he would have been paying attention to her.
and also very embarrassing. I feel like honestly if I showed up somewhere covered in ketchup and mustard, I would be more embarrassed than if I showed up nude.
Well, she didn't show up somewhere. He showed up. She lives there.
You know what I mean.
Yes.
All right.
How about
Uh,
you?
I think um my high is definitely the first scene with the bathroom audition where he's in the middle urinal and four guys flank him on the other urinals, filling up all of the urinals and sing at him in beautiful harmony while he's peeing. And I want to assume they're peeing too. But just that scene, I rarely ever actually physically laugh out loud.
Hmm.
I was just I was guffawing. I loved that scene. I thought that was hilarious.
It was really funny. I
Yeah.
liked it when that joke came back for a second time. I
Oh,
thought it was funny the second time too.
it was so funny the second time because I was not expecting it. I was like, that was a funny joke. They got him in the bathroom. Haha. And he was like, never do that again. That's funny. oh, a chainsaw and a rock band and a bat. Okay, I love it. I love it. This is a great callback.
Yeah,
That's an
it was really
excellent,
funny.
excellent running joke. Lowe's, like, okay, like my low is also the nudity scene, obviously, but you took
Hmm.
that one. So I think I think my low is Bev's personality arc and what it
Mm.
does and does not do. Because that was the only thing that I was really disappointed about was I wanted her arc to either happen or not happen. And I was frustrated about it.
Yeah, me too. I
Yeah.
think in terms of frustration, that was the most frustrating thing for me about this movie.
I also really did not like that she and Luke kissed. I felt like that was I don't know why I was so angry about that, but I was.
Well, we spent so much time watching them like have kind of chemistry and like romantic moments
Hmm.
that it was like really hard for me because I can only focus on one couple at a time when I'm watching a movie. And
Well,
it was
and
hard for me to like switch tracks between them like that.
they also built some weird chemistry in between him and Bev.
That's what I
Like,
mean.
yeah, so it was weird. It felt I don't know. I didn't like it.
Like it felt wrong that he was gonna leave Bev for Katie, like without having a conversation or anything.
Yeah, it
Cause he and Bev didn't like break up or anything.
well, they also weren't officially dating.
Right.
So what would you change about this movie?
Oh, definitely Bev's storyline.
You gotta stop stealing all the good ones.
I'm
You have to.
sorry. She needed to be either meaner and then she gets her comeuppance and we don't care. And she needed to be like actively, like maliciously tricking Luke.
Hmm.
Or she needed to be kinder and we needed some sort of resolution for her where she stood up to her mom, maybe. You
Yeah,
know, like that would have been really nice.
yeah, absolutely. That's the answer. Right, coming up with a second answer.
Good luck.
This movie was just really enjoyable. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I didn't pick up on it in real time, but I would like it if it wasn't Victor pooping in everybody's rooms. I would like it if there really was like a raccoon that got into the house or something.
Or just like a random cat. Or even if we saw a shot of Victor training a cat,
Yeah, look, training a cat to poop. That would be funny.
that would be hilarious.
I didn't like it was Victor because he was like 10.
I don't think he was 10, but
8. He
yeah.
was too old to be pooping in closets is what I'm saying.
What is the appropriate age to be pooping in closets?
Less than the number of fingers on one hand. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I would change that. That just felt weird and gross. So, do you think our listeners should watch this?
I think if you don't come into it with very high expectations, you might enjoy it. This is not like going to be a cult classic,
No.
but this was perfectly fine. If you like this kind of movie, yeah, absolutely give it a watch. What about
Yeah,
you? What do you think?
yeah, agree. This is a fun movie. This is a light flick. This is a nice popcorn pizza, just a fun, lighthearted movie. I liked it. The dance numbers were fun. The music was fun. The pacing was fun. The characterization was nice. Nothing horrific happened.
Hmm.
Yeah, give it a watch. This was fun.
Do you think you'll be watching it again?
Probably. I will probably watch this again because I'm sure that I will find myself weirdly nostalgic, 10 years from now. And Garth will be out on a job and I will be home alone for a whole week or something. And I'll be very sad on day 5. And I'll just get out a bottle of wine and be like, I want to watch the Cinderella thing, but I hated the first 2. I'll watch the third one. Yeah, this is going to be a great idea. And have an okay time.
Yeah.
Where would you rank this in the Cinderella Story series?
Oh yeah, this is much better than the other ones.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think this one should be the one that people like. This is way better than the Hilary Duff one.
Yeah, I didn't like the Hilary Duff one very much. This one is better. It's
Yeah,
everyone in it is way more likable.
absolutely.
And it's still like very tropey and cheesy, so like you still get all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, you get all the bubble gum, but it's built around a better structure.
I
So
mean, the only downfall is that the stepmother once again doesn't compare to Fiona from the first one.
no one compares to Fiona, and again, no friendship is as pure as Sam and Carter's. So
Right.
so, but nothing is ever going to be in all of cinematography history. I've never found that, so it's fine. So, what's your final grade?
I think I'm going with a B minus for this. I thought it was good. It had some things that were kind of not like that great. None of it ever rose to like really fantastic. Like when we're talking about the first movie, there's some things that like I really, really liked, and some things that I really disliked. I didn't really dislike any of this, but there wasn't quite so many high points either. So B minus for me. How about you?
I'm torn between a B plus and an A minus because I loved the prince. I loved Cinderella. I loved that everybody sang well. There were bits of this that I didn't like. Like if I pick it apart, the more I talk about the individual parts, the less I like some of the individual parts. But my overall viewing experience was genuinely really fun. So I guess I'm going to give this an A minus, but like the lowest possible A minus that I can.
Like a flat 90.
Like a flat 90. This is getting a 90 because it did literally make me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
And it delightfully did not have a secondary villain, which I really appreciated.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm giving this one the lowest possible A minus.
Well, it's almost midnight, so thanks for joining us. If you liked this episode, please leave us a rating or a review. We'd love to hear from you, so follow us at CinderPod on Twitter and Instagram, like our Facebook page, or email us at thecinderellapodcast@gmail.com. If you want bibbity bobbity bonus episodes, or to hear us discuss this week's Cinderella but with more adult questions, language, and beverages, join us in the Ever After Party at patreon.com/CinderPod. Our intro music is Bad Ideas by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. So Liv, what are we watching next week?
I was so excited, Talon. We're watching Three Wishes for Cinderella next week.
Are we really?
We really are, because I thought this season was going to be a lot rougher than it's turned out to be so far. So I decided to put some really nice ones in there just for us. So Three Wishes for Cinderella is a Czech Cinderella made in 1973. This was actually the inspiration for this podcast because Talon and I were both kind of sad and lonely. And Talon says, "Hey, you want to watch a Czech Cinderella from the 70s?" And I go, "Absolutely." And here we are. So I am super excited to watch this again through a Cinderella lens of having watched however many of these. And
Yeah.
I'm beyond excited.
I mean, I have to be honest, this is my favorite Cinderella movie. It's one of my top favorite movies of all time. So I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Well, until then, we hope you have a happily ever after.